Hey guys, welcome back with more Talking Infinity Siblings and Thanos turning into death and something more. And so, as many of you guys already know, Thanos from Marvel OGN, he is obsessed with death. He would do anything for Mistress Death. And really, that's practically the Thanos that Starlin has given us since day one. And for as long as we've known his character, he has been relentlessly pursuing her heart, time after time, with no progress. But even though he's able to cross over into her plane of existence, having made a number of trips from that plane to the plane of life, even with the vast amount of time that he spends with her and it going nowhere, for Thanos, her affection in return is the one thing that he desires the most. And at times when he leaves from her, that plane of existence, to dwell in the land of the living, for him, spending that time away from her in the land of the living, it's more so therapeutic on his part, and it plays into much of what we see him do, whether it's to win the love and affection of death, or if it's just him looking for something to destroy to blow out the frustration of that going nowhere. But not too long after entering back in the plane of the living, this is when Corvus Glaive tells Thanos about the activity on Titan, which happened to be his brother Eros. And in the previous video, we covered quite a bit of how this Eros is different, and we talked about how the present day Eros was taken away at the same time that this Eros from the future appeared here on Titan. And with Eros appearing here after 2,000 years, first he asked Thanos if he was aware of their father's passing, which is something to keep in mind for later. But next, he tells Thanos that he has information from the future that would benefit Thanos' self-interest. And of course, Thanos is like, let's hear it, because potentially it could avoid Thanos being killed in the year 4657. And in its own regard, it's a prophecy in the impossible, but slated to one day become true. But while Thanos is having this conversation with Eros, Eros goes on to tell Thanos that many years ago, closer to the time where he first disappeared, that he's made many attempts to return back to Titan. And among those attempts, he's crash landed on a planet named Zelchia. So now let me tell you about Zelchia. Size-wise, Zelchia is 10 times the size of Earth, which would give it a diameter of close to 127,000 kilometers, which is massive. This would make Zelchia a little bit bigger than Saturn, but a little smaller than Jupiter. And because of its massive size, gravity is also 10x as well. And I'll save you from doing the math right now. It's pretty much instant death for any of us trying to go on there. And in comparison to Titan, which is smaller than Earth, this is even more of a significant difference. And so for Eros, having increased strength and being able to fly, when he gets to Zelchia, all of that has changed. And it's not like his powers are immediately taken away, but he's immediately weakened when he gets there. And this causes a problem for him right away, because on the planet Zelchia, there are 3 different species that are intelligent. I can't remember the names right now, but one is like these owl cat looking people, the other ones are more like your primitive ape like, and the third, they're more like bug people. And with his luck, the ape-like ones found him first, and they're getting ready to cook him for dinner. But between these 3 species, they've always been at war between each other, each standing on their own and no 2 of them in alliance. But Eros, his luck turns around, because he's saved by a rival native by the name of Ghost, and Ghost didn't know who Eros was. He just did it because he felt like it was the right thing to do. But with Eros meeting him, and when he got his bracelets back, he can finally understand what he was saying. But after meeting Ghost, this is where he formulated this plan of uniting the 3 different tribes of Zelchia in order to form one massive army for himself. And for Eros, uniting this one world and bringing these people together, it was like an insurance plan for his well-being, because he knows at some point in time he has to coexist with Thanos. And for Eros, for him, this was the perfect opportunity for him to orchestrate his own backup plan. But when he proposed his plan to Thanos, he made it sound more like it was only with the motivation of saving Thanos in the future, in the year 4657. But by executing Eros' plan in 2127, he led Thanos to believe that we gotta execute these steps and you'll be good. But what's crazy, as like the chilling last words of this conversation, before Thanos leaves, he tells Eros, I was gonna kill you because you let Ultron kill our dad, but after this, I reconsider letting you live. And at that point, he's just like, thanks. But this more so proves the point of Eros needing this backup plan, or needing this insurance on his life. Because with Thanos rising in power, it's only a matter of time until he decides whether he wants you to live or not. But immediately after getting Thanos to agree to his plan, this is when Eros gets to work with Pip the Troll. And he does this by using a bracelet that he got from Kang the Conqueror, or at least he said that he got from Kang the Conqueror, that could amplify Pip's power to teleport and allow him to teleport through time and space. And with using this bracelet, the first thing that we see them do is they go to pick up a ship that is much like the one that was given to Eros when he was stranded on an unnamed planet, which is also the same ship that Eros pointed to when he told Kang that he would lend him parts from his ship to repair his time machine. And then after getting his ship, he has a conversation with his lifelong sensei, but when he sees what Eros has become to this day, he just walks off a building, which is just completely crazy. But in continuing Eros' plan, he goes back to the moment that him and Kang first met. But in doing this, he's careful not to run into his old self, because he still needs that event to take place, but in the way that he plans it to. Because even with the risk of creating a time paradox with himself, Eros has to set certain things in motion for himself to be sure that he has everything that he needs. So while his younger self and Kang check out the ship that he gave himself, I know it's crazy. It's like Back to the Future Part 2 meets Inception. But when that event took place in his past, which is the actual future, this gives him a little bit of time alone in Kang's ship, which is something that Kang would have never done on his own. And he used that time to steal time traveling technology from Kang. Fast forward from there, he robs the Shi'ar arsenal and takes their weapons to the planet Zelchia. Arriving in Zelchia in 2126, just seconds after his younger self left. But he came back to this planet bearing these gifts and bearing these weapons because a huge part of his plan succeeding was depending on the top 3 species of this planet coming together. And the way that he orchestrated this plan, it was more of a adoration through deception kind of method. And he used Ghost, who was the native from Zelchia who saved his life, and he had Ghost assemble the 3 species so that they would meet together and protect themselves from an incoming invasion. And Eros used his powers of manipulating people's feelings in order to make it work. And this kept the different species calm enough in order for it to work and play out. But it had to be centered around Ghost. And as for Thanos, his part was the invasion, pretty much. Just go here at this date in 2127 and invade this planet, but don't bring a lot of people. Just bring a small army and a few ships, that's all you need. And the way that Eros planned it to play out, Ghost would go for Thanos, and the only way he could keep up is really by just teleporting real quick in different spaces around him. But Ghost had to be the one to do this, not just because he can teleport, but also because he was the one who brought these 3 different species together. And along with him being able to teleport, but only as far as his eye could see, this would perfectly set the stage for him to give the ultimate sacrifice in order to defeat Thanos, which was grabbing Thanos, looking into the sun, and teleporting him there. And in Eros' plan, this would unite the people in memory of Ghost, because not only did he bring them together, but he sacrificed his own life in order to protect the entire planet. And that was the plan. So when the date came around in 2127, Thanos brought more than just a couple ships. And that's the thing about Thanos, like even if he agrees to your plan, he's going to execute it his way. But when he arrives with his fleet to Zelchia, he starts the first wave of his invasion. But before he actually gets off of the ship himself, Thanos gets taken from the plane of the living to the plane of death, because someone else has been working their own plans at the same time as Eros. And that someone else is Thanos from the future, the god of death, and possibly eternity and some other things. But Thanos pulls his younger self here because on this day in 2127, the beginning of his end will be set in motion. Because just like Kang saw through his time travels, hunger arrived on Zelchia this exact same year. And as far as the future Thanos, his only concerns are making sure with the time traveling that's been happening that 1, he still becomes who he is, and 2, he needs to make sure that hunger is eliminated so he doesn't get powerful enough to consume him out of reality in 4657. But to take this a step even further and connect it to Eros' plan as well, when Kang literally spiraled through eternity, he was ultimately at the mercy of eternity itself. And I believe that's where this version of Thanos guided him to crash land with Eros on that unnamed planet in order to set these specific events in motion. And I'll even admit, as complex as Eros' plan is, I still believe that it's this future version of Thanos who's using Eros' plan to execute his own. But either way, when Thanos, the god of death, talks to his former self, he tells himself that I need you to execute a series of events in a very specific way. And even though they're both the same person, there's still a conflict between the two of these guys, because the younger Thanos, he's still in love with Mistress Death. And the future Thanos is like, look, I'm trying to get you to see beyond that. Because to him, it's so much more important that he becomes so much more, rather than chasing after just to have the heart of Mistress Death. And when present Thanos sees this, because who he is and where he's at in his mind and in his heart, he's like, I would never betray Mistress Death like this. Because once again, in his mind, he doesn't see how he would turn against Death and betray her by taking her place. And so when the future Thanos sends himself back, telling himself that he'll, quote, carefully guide him through these steps that he needs to take, it's kind of crazy because when he comes back, he's really different. And he's put into the same situation that yields a very different outcome. And so when he returns back and Eros sees that Thanos brought more backup than what he had planned to, or that Eros had planned for him to bring, Thanos just tells Eros that things have changed. The circumstances have changed, we're doing this differently. And he just grabs Eros by the head and just throws him over the top of the trees. One hand throw, far. And as a reminder, gravity ain't easy around here. But once again, as I mentioned before, this Thanos is different and he's playing by his own rules. And Pip don't like the new rules, so he just gets the heck out of there. And mainly because he don't like the idea of him being killed being part of the new playbook. But as far as Ghost and all the other events that play out, they play pretty close to what they were supposed to. Ghost fights Thanos, he looks at the sun, he grabs Thanos, they disappear. Everything else goes the way that it seemed it should. Everything from start to finish, including everyone seeing Thanos die. But it's from after this event, it's one of those pieces in time that we don't know as much about. But this particular point in time is shortly after Hunger arrived on Zelchia. And for what we know about the way that Hunger accumulates strength and how Hunger needs to consume more of the weaker beings before he can take on the more powerful beings and eventually just eat all reality, we catch Hunger early on, making his attempt to get enough power to defeat Thanos. But then, Thanos isn't dead, he's still alive. Because this Thanos has made changes to the plan that were made by the future Thanos in order to secure his own power in the future. And because he knows the way that everything is supposed to play out, and part of that goes back also to my theory of him being eternity as well. And I think that's a pretty safe assumption with a hint of Kang's time travel, plus after actually seeing him, it's like that's a given. And when he faces off with the Hunger, we also find out that this Thanos that was sent back, he is operating with the consciousness of the Thanos from the future. And that just goes to show you, like, Thanos don't even trust himself like that. Like, he don't even trust himself to follow his own plan. And even though the Thanos from the present is conscious in this body, he's still in the passenger seat while his future self is calling all the shots. And he does this because, one, he wants to be sure he eliminates the Hunger, but also he's aware that the present version of Thanos isn't 100% on board with his plans. And after he eliminates the Hunger and he sees Eros again, he doesn't even go through the effort of explaining himself. He just tells Eros, you have your secrets and I have mine. And as far as Ghost, his part of the deal stays the same, because we see him again at Starling's bar, which is located in nowhere, because he can't show his face in Zelchia again, not after faking his death. And that was the part of the plan he agreed to, because as a result, his sacrifice united the three different species on his planet. And all of that just landed perfectly into Eros' plan, which is a plan that almost seems like checkers and Thanos is playing chess. Because when Adam Warlock overhears Pip the Troll talking to Eros, he inquires about what the conversation was about, but Pip the Troll cannot utter the words because Thanos, countless miles away, keeps him from speaking. Man, so not only is he death, and very likely to also be eternity, but he has telepathy that can reach from Titan to nowhere. Man, it's like this dude just took the Infinity Stones and swallowed them like some crunch berries. But that'll do it for this one, guys. As far as my winners for the second round of the Keep It 100 giveaway, congratulations, I got all 5 of you posted here. Just send me a private message with your email and I'll get you your $20 Amazon gift cards. And you know, I would say don't spend it all in one place, but you kind of have to. But no, for real, thank you everybody for your support, and don't feel bad if you missed out because I'll definitely have more giveaways in the future. But let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments about Thanos, and what do you think the and more might be? We'll squad up and talk about it. Alright, later.